All right. Well, I actually had on here, actually, at the Jenny, do you want to kick us off and maybe we'll just do, there are, I think, a couple of one or two new participants from the group, so maybe just quick introductions?
Yeah. Good afternoon. I was looking at the time. I'm like, is it morning or afternoon? This day has gone by so quick. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jenny Carrion, and I'm the AVP of Civic Engagement, working along with Eduardo to initiate voter engagement and, well, integrated voter engagement in our community health centers across the state. Good to see you all.
All right, and I'll go next. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. Eduardo Cisneros, Director of Civic Engagement at Altamed Health Services.
I'm Yamile Valladolid. I'm the Manager of Government Affairs for Golden Valley Health Centers in the Central Valley of California.
Victor Christie, California Primary Care Association.
Hi, this is Alide with Livingston Community Health, and I open Outreach and Enrollment Department in Merced County, in Stanislaus County. Hi, Yamile.
Hi, Frida. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And we have Lifelong on the line, Borrego, and Asian Health Services.
Everyone, this is Mike Locke from the Asian Health Services in Oakland.
Hi, this is Christina Reeves. I'm the Director of Research with Borrego Health.
Hi, everyone. From Lifelong Medical Care.
Great. Welcome, everyone. All right, I think we're set.
The whole gang's here.
All right, awesome. And I thought I had extended the invite to La Clínica de la Raza and San Isidro Health, some of our OGs in the partnership, but I don't know if they'll be able to join. They'd actually heard this in the past because we've been working with them since the start of the year, but I will be following up with them as well. And so just a reminder that they're also our partners in this work as well in NorCal and down south in San Diego County. So with that, Jenny was sharing, I think some other people joined, however, do you want to just, I was going to just update the group a little bit about where we were at with the town hall, virtual town hall, and then we've now completed all the roundtables and kind of we're moving along. I forget how many days are left, but Jenny will remind us in terms of days to the election. So Jenny and Victor, you guys just want to share, I'm sorry?
89.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. And so perfect. So anything else to share in terms of just Jenny from the Alex Padilla Town Hall? Okay. Victor, I definitely think some other folks joined. Did you want to share that update around the propositions and CPCA's official position on those?
Yes. So CPCA took a support position on 3 propositions, Prop 15, 16, and 17. So split roll, repeal of 209, and voting for parolees that are former felons. So we're really excited about that. And then our sister organization, California Health Plus Advocates, will be recommending that they do a similar action during their board meeting on September 3rd. So thank you to our board member, Jenny, for highlighting that.
And I think for us, just as we think about how we're going to be organizing a brand new block of voters to vote by mail, that in itself is a huge lift.
Yeah.
But now we can encourage them not just to vote by mail, but to vote for these propositions that support the elimination of social determinants of health. So more resources for communities. And so we're really excited. I think this is going to make our life a lot easier to get more engaged.
I think so, and it's really complementary too. So it's great that we're doing this.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, thank you guys, and that's absolutely right, Jenny. Right, I think I forget who it was. Maybe it was San Isidro that said, if CPCA endorses these propositions, it makes me easier for me to go to my leadership and my board to be able to support that, and that's absolutely right. When we talk to our patients and this populations, like it's definitely easier to say vote for something. I mean, yeah, the presidential's at the top of the ballot and all the federal seats, but then the propositions will be helpful. And so I'll have more of an update on that as well in terms of materials that we have planned.
Great.
Yeah, again, just a friendly housekeeping, please mute yourselves if you're not talking, and you should be able to control both the mute functions on your end, just so that we minimize background noise. And then, so thank you again for carving out. I have on here on this agenda kind of just an outline game plan for today. You'll see it adds up to 45 minutes, so we don't have to spend hopefully the whole hour, but just definitely open it up. I want to make it interactive. We want to make sure we're answering all questions. This is envisioned as completing training 2 of kind of our partnership MOU, and hope that it's helpful for you. Based on your feedback, we ended up doing 2 things for this session. One is we're going to talk about what we've been able to do at AltaMed in terms of getting organizational buy-in. Just because as soon as we got sign off from our CEO to do this, we thought we were in the clear, but then we quickly learned that it was not, like, buy-in from the entire organization takes work, and it's not automatic, even though there are supportive leaders at the top and whatnot. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll also talk about something that we're really the crux of our work, right, is thinking about how do we help you guys organize your patients to be able to follow up with them and build a list and all that. So there'll be a discussion point on this as well. My memory, I think, from talking to all the other groups ahead of time during the roundtables was that you guys have like patient data, but don't really have necessarily kind of a list, external community list or a voter list, for instance, that you guys are targeting necessarily yet. And that's where we come in, right? So a few years back at AltaMed, before we even started any of this work, we had like our Epic data, patient database, and however many patients we have. And then we were like, well, we want to mobilize them to vote. And then we quickly learned that because PHI and other reasons, we obviously can't go to that list, right? So we have to build our own. And so what we've been able to do is actually build and grow our own list with a combination of PDI voter data that's public and out there that we can track down, but then also the old school way of signing people up and logins and sign up sheets and pledge cards and text to commit and join the campaign and all that stuff. So that's kind of the second half of the session. And then we'll provide an update on campaign materials that we'll be getting out to you guys soon. And we've definitely taken some of your feedback, and so hope those are helpful, and then we'll just discuss next steps. I'll stop there in case there's any immediate questions. Again, try to hopefully keep us down to 45 minutes, but keep me accountable to that. All right. So organizational buy-in, right? So at AltaMed, we're really privileged to be able to have as our CEO. Like many other organizations, established AltaMed as a free body clinic in East LA back in the late 60s. And we've been around for 50 years, but he was also, went to Berkeley and was a Green Beret, and so was totally social justice oriented from early on. And so he's brought that to us as an organization. And so that leadership from him directly has been extremely helpful, probably the most helpful in our experience of getting other VPs and other executives and other members of the organization to buy in. I know that we've had to use that card several times, right, Jenny, in terms of getting people to kind of implement this work. Obviously, our tone is always, we have support from our leadership, and we know that the first line of business at our organization is always patient care. We're not looking to disrupt that, but there is absolutely a way to integrate this work in our everyday work, and that's usually our approach.
Yeah, and Eduardo, if I can add to that, we had UC Riverside do an evaluation of the amount of time that it took us to speak to a patient about civic engagement issues versus the time that when we didn't speak to him about it. And the time difference, their research showed in the evaluation, I think they evaluated for about 4 weeks, Eduardo, correct me if I'm wrong, that the patient experience did not change. So that was one of the things that we were hearing from our providers. Well, we don't have a lot of time, and we have to get people out of here. And we were able to show with the research that notion is actually wrong. And being that all of your CEOs and leadership are very strong advocates of civic engagement, the messaging coming from them initially is very important. For the first couple of years, we had some resistance, and I had to forward people the CEO's memo just to remind them, just FYI, this was the directive from all the way above. And after they start hearing and seeing some of the results firsthand, then we had buy-in. But I just want you to be gentle with yourselves and not go crazy, as in Eduardo and I often go crazy when staff's like, why are we doing this? And we're like, so, just wanted to give you some of that, historical kind of learned lessons from us.
Absolutely. Thank you,
I
Jenny.
have a question.
Yes.
Would it be possible, is there a publication of the evaluation that ECR did? It would be helpful to me to have that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a PDF. We'll get it over to the group. It is. Thank you for that reminder, Jenny. I forgot we had actually validated that with UCR. But yeah, it was one of our biggest questions. Was like, are they going to say that we're now like throwing more work on their plate and disrupting their? And so yeah, the findings were that that it didn't. And so we'll share that for sure. Great. So and then so what you're seeing here on the screen is just a couple of resources, and know that we're happy to provide templates for what we did here. So the first picture that you're seeing there is actually an email that introduced this work to our entire staff, right? So it went to every single employee that we have, and and so the message there was early on. It was late last year, and it was around census and it was around voting. This one came after we did our first rounds of briefings too, right? So Jenny and the team got in front of department heads and had already kind of given them the little PowerPoint and had talked about what's coming. And so now the CEO is coming in to follow up with that and saying to all staff, like, we need you to, as you know, 2020 is a big year, obviously a nonpartisan message, but the importance message early on. And so that was a big piece for us, right? Any communication from him. And then follow-up came from our government relations team. And so we've also had community affairs follow-up emails. And so as you can see, it's just keeping that narrative out there. And like Jenny pointed out, yeah, at times we had to be like, oh, you saw the CEO's message, right? That he supports this work and we want to make sure that we impact and empower our community and so on and so forth. And so happy to share those templates as well. The second one is the picture there in the middle is our newsletter, actually. This goes out to every employee. I think it's like bi-week or every 2 weeks or something like that. And we've now, at first, they were reluctant to include messages around what we had to say because it was all grow bold or what was it, the other campaigns that they were working on where they were pushing it. So we slowly got our way in there and we're able to integrate this message, right? It starts to become a cultural thing. We have now, you fast forward to many follow-up conversations, and now we're at a point where comms reaches out to us and says, hey, do you guys have an update for this week? What do you guys, what's the latest on the census? We want to keep people apprised. And so again, this all complements kind of the other 5 touches of like, once they start to see all this and they start to see the signage and the buttons and people are talking about this, it starts to become, the culture. And so that's kind of the other asset too, right, is definitely using newsletters, any current communications you guys have to staff. We also have a printed, handout guide magazine that we do every so often. So we also featured ourselves on the cover of that. And so that was a pretty big deal. Again, our thing is, if we're empowering our patients, we're empowering our community because the majority of them live in the area. So, they're definitely getting introduced to this work and it's changing the culture. The last picture is very dense. Jenny reminds me, a very dense memo, but this is actually, as you can see there, it goes to our VP of operations and our medical leadership, right? So we do this on a regular basis. This one, I apologize, the small print, but this was about to notify them that we were bringing kiosks, promotoras, to their clinics. And so, they're not all this dense, but we actually send these pretty regularly, actually. So every update, again, this is to complement like our field staff, our coordinators out there. They'll go and talk to the clinic administrator, they'll talk to the the administrative support staff and whoever else is out there, right? The department heads, or actually like the manager staff, the front office, back office staff. But then we will follow up with a memo just to communicate that to our executives as well. So you can see that that's become kind of the regular norm as well. And again, it's similar to the newsletter and the emails. Once they get used to them, they're just expecting it. And so that provides you guys coverage as you continue to go out there and talk about this work and start to integrate it. So I encourage, for every update, just both in-person briefings and then also just memos and follow-up pieces on that, and any communication that you guys have currently in terms of newsletters going out to your employees particularly. Jenny, anything else? I was going to also talk about lessons learned from when we went out there to just brief folks and the questions type of questions we were kind of getting and things like that.
Yeah, no, I think this is good.
Okay.
And we will email you these documents, so you can just like copy and paste and add them to your letterhead if that's helpful, so you don't have to recreate them.
Thank you. And yeah, so one of the things, so when we finally started getting out there, and granted, COVID is very different now, and I definitely, we recognize that, but we got out there for a few weeks and we're visiting with every clinic, and we got in there and we were able to say, they were trying to give us, I think it's their monthly meeting per clinic, and they were trying to give us about 10 to 15 minutes just to briefly update. And we recognized that while that was helpful, we got in front of them for those minutes, people were not understanding what we're trying to do in that amount of time. So we had to go back and we actually scheduled, we went back to our board of trustees, our board, our leadership, and got approved to be able to do a mandatory training on civic engagement. And we did that with a social determinants of health angle. So then we were able to go back out to the clinics and take every single clinic location that we have and train them for about 30 to 40 minutes. Again, this is a short, condensed timeline. It's very different, but just we're sharing this in a sense that we have lessons learned and best practices. So let us know if you guys, I hope these are getting the juices flowing right in terms of how best you guys are thinking about those external facing departments and how you can get in front of those folks, particularly the ones that interact with patients.
If you have an actual presentation, like the one that you mentioned, how you aligned civic engagement with the social determinants of health, because that's where they have that aha moment. They have to be able to, just like you said, it's so critical, because when I talk to some of our staff members, they're like, but then when I align how it affects, and I use COVID as a huge example. I mean, we're seeing it right now. So if you have a template that you could share, I'd appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, I think sorry, my thing's acting funky here. And yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I think it's tying it back. It's also kind of going, we learned that even after we went back a couple of times to our staff, we had to go back and I would start to talk to I would pop in, to some of the clinics, and I would say, oh, are you guys able to, how's the census going? How are you guys? And I had a couple of blank stares at times, and they're like, and I was like, wait, you're not reading the script, or you're not comfortable with just reminding people about the census? And they would say, like, I actually don't understand what the census is still. Right. And it was just like, okay, fine. I get it. I'm not mad. But it was a reminder that we can talk to, like, we get it because we're like external folks, government relations types, civically engaged, right? But our staff, sometimes it's a reminder that they're very much reflective of our community as well. And so they're not sitting around thinking about, census response rates in California or whatnot, or making sure that every person's going to vote by mail, or things that kind of we think about right in this space. And so that was also a lesson learned. Yamilet is also going back and tying it back and being like in a really direct way, like, look, you live here and I am your neighbor and we're both getting screwed when we don't respond to the census. Or if we don't vote, like, our representative, by the way, is doing this and that, and things like that. So tying it back, but also tying it back to the health piece. Before I open it up for some questions and just kind of overall discussion on this piece, we wanted to include some pictures here, right? So these are things where, again, leverage your leaders. Gastilo and our CEO is extremely supportive, and so we utilize them anytime we possibly can. On the far left, that's one of our staff members presenting to, like I mentioned, we went out to the clinics and we were presenting, on the census, training them, and really, doing like a mandatory login so that we know that all the staff was there, things like that. So, and that was really helpful. The more and more they were able to feel comfortable with the material, the better and more equipped they're able to just communicate it in a conversational way with our staff, with our patients. The two pictures in the middle, of course, are with our CEO, our work that we've been doing. A lot of the signage has been bringing a lot of visibility. We Vote, We Count is the kind of things we've been doing. We have an annual assembly of all our staff. And so we had like a prominent role. We made sure to get on that agenda. And we do that, by the way, pretty frequently. Anytime we can get in front of a big management meeting, we like sign up and then definitely figure out what we're going to present on afterward. But we always like take up the off. We always make sure we get in there on the agenda, and then we follow up and make sure. It's just always important to take every opportunity you can to continue to incorporate and talk about this work. You can't talk about it enough. And then, of course, then you start to see the outcomes of our work. And on the far right is our nursing staff at one of our clinics in East LA. And now they're all about, like, now they've decorated the space. They're all talking about the census. They're wearing their shirts on I think it's every Tuesday. As you can see, this was a picture from, just about a week or so ago, and they're wearing PPE and still out there. And so that's the next phase, right, is thinking about, like, how do we continue to just like incentivize the ones that are doing great. The way that we've been thinking about it is just amplifying them in newsletters and efforts like that. So, but you start to see, it's really encouraging, because once you introduce folks and they kind of understand it, it becomes a cultural kind of shift, and then then they're comfortable talking about it and they do it, and it starts to change the culture overall. All right, so I will stop there. That's kind of a lot. I don't know if kind of reactions, thoughts on if anyone kind of wants to just a knee-jerk reaction to anything that you kind of heard around that, what pieces will be helpful. I'll definitely share the PowerPoint that we use, ties those social determinants. We actually have a bit of a graphic that's also visually outlines the steps of why we're doing this work. And then we share the UCR report. Any other reactions from anyone?
I just love everything that you're showing us, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was a learning lesson. It was like flying the plane, as they say, flying the plane as you're building it, and then you're just like, dang it, we have to do this, we should do that. And then
yeah, I love it. I know, I love it. Are we going to touch a little bit about your community, like if you've partnered with any community organizations or entities, or with the county recorder's office or anything of that nature?
we have, and so I guess the quick piece on that, and we could definitely talk about the partnerships in a future convening too. We wanted to make sure we looped in that piece as well. I guess there's two questions, right? So it's like, do we work with other nonprofits that are in our area? And then more important, and also as important, are we working with the registrar's office, especially now during COVID, right? And so to that, I would say yes and yes, actually. So we have worked with nonprofits. We are part of, in LA County, there's a collaborative down in Southeast LA County, where it's like a coalition of nonprofits. And so we work with them, and so they are able to help spread the word. But what we've seen is more impactful, and I think to your point, is partnering directly with the local governments and the county, actually. And so with our conversations with them, for instance, LA County did this whole shift over to more days of voting through Voters' Choice Act and whatnot, all the state initiatives to make voting easier. And then they started doing vote centers. And I don't know if every county across the partners regions have these, but they started bringing ballot devices to like libraries and other areas that are non-traditional, right? And so we ended up getting in, looped into that mix, actually. So we now have ballot drop-off boxes installed at some of our clinic in Orange County. And we also hosted ballot marking devices in March for the primary. And so those were particularly in our PACE locations. So targeting our senior citizens, because we figured that's where a population already exists and we can take it there. And then also kind of, it's already kind of built in. But we also brought it to our corporate office staff, where we're next to a big outlet shopping center thing. And we were promoting it around there to make sure that, it was for our staff, but also open to the community as well. And so that was posted on the county's website. And we saw really great success on that, actually. Right, Jenny? I think we were like the highest of the partners at the county. I think the others were a nonprofit in South LA and a church.
Yeah, there was 52 flex voting locations throughout LA County. And I have to say that they were being very resistant to let us be a vote center, because we didn't have the amount of square footage that they wanted, right? Because we're a clinic. We don't have just, big library, for example, that is empty, throughout the whole day. So there was a lot of pushback, but the highlight of this is that we had the #1 voter turnout out of all 52 locations were Altamed. So our patients, specifically, I don't know if some of you have PACE locations, our PACE patients were just like thrilled. And there was these great stories about them voting for the first time, because they didn't feel intimidated, or they need to have someone take them to a polling place, or they didn't know, what were the propositions. We had ultimate staff there able to support and answer any questions. So it was literally one of the highlights of my political career.
That's fantastic. No, I think it's very important to ensure that those partnerships do exist. And so I love the examples that you gave us. So we can, research further with our counties and in our areas what we can do. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I could also, so we are following up, in fact, it's on my to-do list today, with the county, because at one point, LA and Orange had said, what if we did pop-up vote centers outside at certain parking lots, right? And we're like, well, we have those. And they're like, well, and people that are using PPE, right? And we're like, oh, we also have that too, right? So we have to follow up to think about, because by the way, the Secretary of State's office was sharing that they're really behind on volunteers and polling locations. And I think this is across the state, right? So they're in pretty bad shape. And there's no funding for outreach this time around because of COVID has been taking the priority. So they're cutting back that, right? So it's just, if folks are interested, and Yamilet, I'll definitely count you in on that, but I'm going to follow up with the state folks. There's both the future of elections in California, and then they have like a committee that they're pulling together. And we can absolutely like go to them as health centers and say, look, if folks are open to it, I know we are, we'd be open to looking at a polling location or whatnot outside at one of our clinics where we already have the COVID screening outside and things like that. So, the drive-through. Right.
Good idea. Good idea on a state level to start those conversations. I'm going to be partnering with our county recorder's office. They want to do some social media videos of various different people from the community. And so they asked me to do one in regards to mail-in voting, and in Spanish and in English here in Stanislaus County. So I think those are also really important. That's the way that they also want to outreach the community by featuring people that other people might recognize within the community networking. And so possibly the other health centers that are listening in, that could be also an opportunity to work with them. Just an FYI.
Yes, no, absolutely. Sign us up. We would absolutely. We're working on an animated one that we had. We were trying to get Secretary Padilla, which reminds me, we need to follow up with this team to do one as well for us that we can. And thinking about how do we share these videos with partners to run those, right? Because that was really good though. That is certainly going to be impactful, right? If you have folks, real people from the community, if you will, featured, they're local champions and whatnot. So thank you for that. Keep us posted.
Definitely, I'll share it.
All right, so if no other questions on this section, organizational buy-in, we'll follow up with some of these resources. Let us know. I'm always open to, to answering any questions and following up on these pieces. I'll loop Victor in on the statewide committee, and maybe we can go to them through CPCA also at the state level around that kind of question around pop-up outside vote centers and pieces like that, because that could be pretty big. The next piece, and again, this is kind of a little bit more exciting and fun, but this is what we're envisioning for your guys' helping to collect data and also sign people up. So essentially build your list. And I know we're in this section, we're kind of, we're in different areas in terms of the various health centers. I'm looking at Asian Health Services, and they have like a killer program where they've done it already in 16 and they've registered, I forget, several thousand folks actually. And so there are some that are still getting started in this work. And then there's people like Altamed even that we need to go back out there and still continue to do work in 2 counties as well. And so what we're thinking about the next 2 slides, and then I'll go over the next 2 slides and then I'll open it up for discussion, but this is kind of what we're envisioning for our outreach, right? So each one per our agreement, MOU with this partnership, we agreed to reach out to 1,600 individuals coming through our doors. And so the easiest way that we envision doing this, actually there's 2 kind of approaches, but the one that we're thinking that we want to focus on is having your teams either at all sites or a select number of sites start to collect pledge cards. And this is a draft actually, we're updating it and I welcome any edits actually. But this is where we intend to, our front office staff has been able to give a pledge card and integrate that. So after we train them, we'll go out there and then ask them like, hey, get the sign up, and then get these names, right? So we can provide these cards to you guys so that you guys can start to, both electronically, by the way, and then for printing, but also ship you guys some, since we're a little bit behind schedule. We're going to get these out to you ASAP. And so then the idea is that you guys start to build a list, right? So you're collecting names. And what you're seeing here is both a printed copy on the left, the draft, and then an electronic version as well. The electronic version is going to live on our website at My Vote My Health, and then we'll make a page for each one of you guys to go in there. Whether it ends up being one of you that collects it, or if you ask like someone from clinics to then submit individually, let us know. We can follow up offline in terms of what makes sense there. Overall, I mean, obviously, pledge cards are super valuable, so you want to make sure you're tracking them, right? So as staff is collecting them, make sure you get the final copies of those, and obviously that information you're able to. It's also going to be complemented with a handout, either a voter guide, and now hopefully it's a voter guide around Prop 15, 16, and 17, but also just the piece around, we can talk about the other touches, but it's the envision is you give this with the handout, the front office staff gives it, collects it also in that same visit, and you're able to kind of put that away, and then we build the list, which then we're able to activate and follow up with closer to October, right? So to make sure that we text or follow up with that same group. And so that's what we have currently in the works. Definitely the nuance around one of the changes we're doing is just the language. We want to make sure that it's inclusive of our non-voters, right? So non-citizens. We don't. Our comms department ended up adding, "Are you registered to vote?" We're like, we probably don't want to outright ask that. Let me edit that in a way that is, if you, for instance, engage a patient that isn't eligible to vote, isn't a citizen.
It's not a stalker situation.
Right. And you want to make sure you're still able to give a handout in a way that, or the postcard in a way that's still helpful to them. So I think we're changing the language a little bit. And so if you have any thoughts, just let me know on that.
Even I pledge to promote voting.
Exactly.
Right. Something of that nature.
Yeah. I think what we said is I pledge to have my voice heard or something like that. Right. Because then it's kind of a little bit more, everyone can pass the word and things like that. And again, a couple of things on the actual design, and I was going to touch on this a little bit more, but these are in CPCA's colors, right? So we realize that the easiest way to just do it, and hopefully that works for everyone, is we'll just do it in CPCA's colors because we all kind of fall under that partnership. And then you can add your logo to, as you can see down there, it's going to have a section where it's editable, and you guys add your logo. Just let us know. So we'll be following up with that. That's what we were able to do for us. Certainly, welcome any thoughts on that as well. And again, this is going to, for us, it would end up being, I think I want to say it was English, Spanish, and Mandarin, but obviously there's other interests in other pledge cards as well. So just let us know on that piece as well. Very quickly, go ahead.
Sorry, if we could get it in Arabic for Borrego Health, that'd be great.
Awesome, making note of that, Christina.
Is there any way, this is Alida, is there any way to do Punjabi for Livingston?
Let me double, I'm sure, and the interest is to do, I have to follow up with our comms team. We actually have a firm that translates it all, but I think the overall, the green light statement was yes, but let me follow up and I will confirm that with you, and actually with everyone. What I can do is maybe just follow up individually on kind of the request for for those, I'm hearing some background noise. If you can mute your phone, if you're not talking, that'd be greatly appreciated. And I will follow up on the language request from each individual partner. And then just, this is what we ended up doing for our census piece. And so the reason that we're able to rely on postcards, or we're trying to recommend these pledge cards, is that because they actually were pretty successful for us in the census. Actually, we did it early on before the census started, and it ended up being like, I commit to vote in the census, right? And so people filled this out. It was really great to see both staff and our patients fill it out, actually, with little reluctance, honestly. Jenny talked about her happiest day doing this work. Mine was also when we started, I went out to one of the clinics and I had a big stack of these pledge cards, and I'm like, I'm gonna start talking to the patients. And I thought they were going to be like super reluctant to engage, but surprisingly, they were like so about it. So, well, this is just, you know, we're going to be following up with the orange and blue pledge cards around voting, but this is just an example of what we did in the past. And then we also had tally sheets. So we also provided our staff, what we wanted to say to them is get as many pledge cards as you can actually, but in the event you can't, also just get a nudge of, or get a tally sheet of how many people you gave a handout to. And so they ended up getting creative with that. So they were able to, for instance, they would go to the printer and get like 25 sheets. And then if they give all 25 sheets, they would make note of that. Or there was other nurses that said, I'll hold the little stickers for each patient and I'll stick them on a different white paper on the side. And every person that I kind of sticker for at the end of my shift got a vote handout or whatnot. So definitely encouraging those reporting pieces as well. So we'll be following up on this piece, but that's the vision for it right now. If you guys collect the pledge cards, then you're submitting them on our website and our database. We're compiling them all for you just because, again, originally we were going to set you guys up with different databases, like work with you guys that don't have like a nation builder or another, another form of platform. We have it already set up, so we're going to go ahead and organize that for you guys, and then we'll be able to share it with you and make you guys a login for that list. And so we'll go from there and we would activate them closer to GOTV. All right, that's a big chunk of the kind of the next kind of phase of this work. Welcome any reactions to that. Before that, what I would say is, so again, I think we said deliverables for each one of the clinics was 1,600, essentially pledge cards or individuals impressions. And so definitely welcome how you guys think about, meeting that objective. But something that I think I had also followed up with Mike at Asian Health Services, something that also is available for us that we can do, and we should stay in close communication around this is, in the event that, let's say, you start to pledge cards and you're running into too many challenges, what we're starting to think about as a backup is that we could essentially pull a voter list for your region for any county that you guys want to prioritize, for instance, and we can provide that if necessary to be able to follow up that way. Obviously, it's more helpful for us to build a list organically from your patient population and people coming through your doors, but there is also that external piece of, we work with PDI, which is Political Data Incorporated. We do it at Ultimate, obviously. We do both internal pledge card collecting, but then also external outreach to voters in our area. So just keep us posted on that. Those are the two kind of approaches we're thinking of. And so if you guys also keep that in mind, we'll continue to keep tabs on that as you guys are starting to activate and collect these cards. If that's looking challenging, we could also turn around and provide you a list, say, of 1,600 individuals for you guys to outreach to. Again, that's kind of like the backup plan, but that's also available for us as well. All right, I will stop there. Reactions, does this all make sense? Was there any kind of immediate kind of questions or clarifying pieces that need to be covered?
So what is the timeline for the pledges so that we can begin collecting the, I know that you said that you'll send them to us either, electronically or through mail, but what is the timeline that you are visioning?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I'm a little frustrated with my communications department. We're behind schedule actually, but we're gonna try to get that in the next week or so actually. So we'll get those shipped out. What I'll do is I'll send you guys an email and just reply back to me with your shipping address and then your languages. And then obviously the ones that are already in final production are Spanish, English. So those would be probably sooner, but the other languages shouldn't take too much longer since we have that. We've already kind of prepared our teams to be able to work on those.
Okay, thank you.
And I would say that the digital version, we also have a QR code. Not ideal, right? Because then you're not giving folks a paper. You're actually, it could work. Those will be available by the next couple of days actually for all you guys on our website.
So with the QR code, something that's kind of working for us in terms of, research opportunities right now, because we are not putting a lot of papers and like sort of high touch items in our waiting areas is to have a poster with a QR code, and patients seem to like that. Is that something that you're thinking about?
I'm sorry, say that one more time. QR code on which piece?
On a poster, so that it's something that the patients are not touching, because our waiting areas, we've removed a lot of papers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we actually, I have one more slide that I'll click over to that is actually starting to incorporate that, something that's been more and more popular actually. I'll show that now actually. Let's see. Oh, okay, so skipping a little bit ahead, but as you can see, these are drafts. These are kind of in the final production. The poster in the middle is kind of what we've kind of, we're mocking up and we'll be finalizing. As you can see there's a QR code in that. And then also on the right side, you start to see, we will be called tabletop easels. There's flyers on the corner, there's banners and tabletops. Not so much the banners or the art signs, but definitely the posters and the tabletops are in the works with QR codes. Let me go back to just the recap of the other pieces, and then we will start to kind of focus on next steps. Any other questions with regards to kind of the reporting pledge cards? Again, we'll try to get those out as soon as possible. I'm hoping within a week's turnaround. I will follow up with an email to gather your guys' shipping addresses and then any preferences on the languages and accommodate as many of those as we can. And then we will kind of go from there. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you guys. I'm making note of Mike's comment also Vietnamese. I will incorporate that as well in terms of the request. All right, so I said 45 minutes. We're a little past that, so I might take a couple more, but hopefully keep us still under the hour. Just to recap, we talked about data reporting and also getting organizational buy-in, right? So I think first and foremost, kind of probably what's most helpful is to get in front of your leadership staff if you haven't already. I know that just given the conversations we've had directly with some of your guys as CEOs, they're on board. They obviously joined the partnership, but I think I would also follow up, you know, with leadership kind of overall and brief them on the initiative. Because I think that'll give you guys buy-in as you get out to the clinics as well. I know some of the partners, we're starting to do that. We have PowerPoint slides on some of the thinking around the steps and things like that, or any of these pieces, so we can provide you those. Train, you know, go out, think about how we can train staff, right? So in our toolkit that we shared, there's some steps in there, but we're also happy to provide ongoing kind of just touching base. What we ended up seeing, like I described, we went out to the clinics and we took them up on the offer to do like a 10-minute, 15-minute presentation, but then also just recognize that you're probably going to need to do a little bit more of that site-by-site basis. So I would think about those clinics that you're going to be able to collect pledge cards in, right? If it's all of them, then I would probably try to get out to all the clinics. If it's going to be a handful of select ones, then I would focus on training those clinic teams, from everyone from like the providers, the doctors, to the clinic administrators, to also all the staff essentially, right? We didn't leave anyone out in our trainings, including our environmental aides actually. And then just retrain. After you've done that, you're going to have to kind of stay engaged, right, in that process until the end of this campaign and beyond actually. So just keep in mind that the plan is to kind of get in front of the folks and continue to reiterate the messaging on this piece. And then regular communication with us, right? So don't hesitate to reach out. We'll be in touch. There'll be a lot more touch bases. Victor and I and Jenny have been regular communication to get these pieces out to you guys, and we'll be here to support as well. Okay, and then I jumped ahead, but this is kind of what we have in the works in terms of materials that we're going to provide you guys. So we have screensavers that I know some of the health centers have already started to ready and prime their. Actually, I think I sent one version of the screensavers out to some folks. So I'll make sure to share it with the entire group. And those are intended to just run them on your on every computer screen, right? We do it at Ultimate. We do it at both our every office, but also every clinic computer is running a screensaver. And what we see is that's super helpful, right? Because we also have screensavers in the exam rooms as well. And so even with COVID, that's still one of our most successful pieces to be able to implement. We also have recordings of our on-hold messages promoting voting and census. If we'll be able to share those as well. And then we have short scripts that we recommend. If you guys start to integrate, let's say like a message at the end of your patient plan summary or your after visit summary, and you want to put a, register to vote or get up to, a message on there, we have that suggested language and scripts as well. Like we talked about a little bit, and Yamilet mentioned as well, actually, we have PSAs in the works. We'll try to get those out as soon as possible. There's also some government ones that are being produced, as my understanding. For instance, Secretary of State's also creating one, so we're keeping tabs on that as well. And then just a whole bunch of other, we have talking points that include latest on COVID. So obviously the big message there is every registered voter is getting a vote by mail ballot. And so we're encouraging that. And then so we'll get pledge cards and the other pieces out to you. Additional pieces, as you saw in some of the images there, is like social media templates and things like that. So we'll start to collaborate more with CPCA around putting some of these social media graphics out there that we could all share. But we encourage you guys to start to post, obviously, on these initiatives as well. We certainly are still posting a lot about the census, and we'll continue to do so about now shifting over to voting as well. And then posters and other pieces will be coming your way. All right, and then I kind of touched on this a little bit already, but this is what we have in the works, right? So these are the various pieces. This is what they'll look like. If you, reflect on it, think about it, get back to us on some pieces. Obviously, this is just the draft, and I think some of the images we'll be flexible on. Want to be mindful of our various diversity in California, but also both providers and who's talking to. Our communications team always tells me, it's like, who's giving the message, right? And this one, you have someone in scrubs, but it could also be a patient that's saying, I'm going to vote, or things like that. So these are near final. We'll make sure to start getting these out to you as well. We actually, in our clinics, have the one that's on the right side. It's the doctor with the lab coat. We vote, we count. We have those at our locations. Yeah, if helpful, we could also make those available as well, which I'll follow up. Okay, noted. I'm seeing head nods, so I noted on that. Okay, and then just to start to wrap up, again, I kind of, this is, we're now completing training number 2. So if you look at the first column on the left, we did a pre-campaign assessment. So thank you guys all for joining on those. We did our first training, which touched on the toolkit and 5 steps. We actually also did somewhat of a little bit of a launch. We sent out some press releases announcing this group, and we had a virtual town hall yesterday on Facebook Live featuring CPCA and some other partners were able to join on that as well. And so that's the first 3 items. Today we're completing item number 4, and then we'll keep you posted on item number 5 and 6, which are the next couple trainings. Similar to this one, so we welcome any thoughts. If you're thinking about, like, I think we need to touch more on this, let me know if there's feedback. But the next one is going to be where we invite probably some of those state leaders working on the actual logistics of the latest on voting and what that's looking like, right? So whether it's the Secretary of State's office or one of the counties or one of the bigger ones, maybe we'll invite them to share with us what's the latest on that. And hopefully by then I will also have an update on the question around what this outside vote centers and what that's looking like, if that's a possibility still. Or if that's in the works, to share with the group as well. The middle column there is the printing campaign schedule. So again, we're a little behind schedule, just the nature of starting late, and then also, but also just with our comm shop. So we'll make sure to get those out to you as soon as possible, including with some follow-up to this email. Keep you posted on that, and then of course there's just the timeline dates for your reference on the right side there. I'm seeing a question from Mike at Asian Health Services around the census. So I'll just pause here and feel free to respond to the chat directly. But also the question is around, are we planning on doing both a census push? You guys may have seen the census got shortened by a month, right? So now we're in September. looking at the end of September to respond to the census. And then we're also doing stuff around National Health Center Week, focusing on civic engagement and some of these pieces as well. So in fact, actually, I can stop and invite maybe Victor to share if there's any. I know that there are some graphics and pieces in the works for those of you that National Health Center Week is an absolutely perfect time to integrate some of this work. So I encourage everyone to be able to post some of those civic engagement messages if you're able to.
Yes, thank you. So yes, CPCA will be doing a census push next week to coincide with National Health Center Week. And we do have social media graphics. And on Wednesday at noon, we're going to be doing a Facebook Live event around the census. So encouraging everyone to attend that.
All right, awesome. And then just let's see what I have here. Oh, I had the I guess if you guys were able to tune in, like we mentioned yesterday, we had a virtual town hall on Facebook Live. It featured our CEO, but also Secretary Padilla. It was really helpful because and Andy Patterson ended up joining in place of Carmela, but it was really helpful because it talked about our UCLA report and validated our work in March that we've been doing. That overall speaks to our overall work, right? So health centers absolutely make perfect sense to be able to be doing this work. So encourage you guys, I'll share the link to that as well. So you guys can tune in. It's the video recording is still up. And it was some of those strategies you heard directly from Secretary Padilla around kind of his suggestions. One of them, which was that he has like a link that's going to help people track their ballot, for instance, and he's definitely promoting that. We're starting to integrate that on our website as well, and making sure that messaging on that is getting out as well, right? So vote by mail, and then by the way, you could also track your ballot all the way until it gets to make sure it's safely cast, and so that's part of it. And then the report that we published is also we'll be able to share with that also had some findings that supports this work further. All right, and so that for the most part concludes this. I have my notes and follow up here with you guys, and so and again, our website is myvotemyhealth.org. We'll start to that's continuously updated, so we're going to be adding more and more of this material on there. We'll follow up and do a request if you guys want to have your. We have La Clínica de la Raza and San Isidro Health featured on there. We want to make sure we united front, so we should we'll make sure to add your logos if you guys are on board with that, and that could be a central kind of clearinghouse website for everyone to kind of post and share their information there. Also through our partnership with vote.org, if you go to myvotemyhealth.org/vote, we have voter registration tools there and confirm your status. So also we'll start to integrate some of those URLs there as well. So definitely feel free to drive people to that website /vote to make sure that they check their status and get registered. And then the information that's gathered there, we're compiling, so we'll make sure to share with your service areas if folks are coming in from your regions. All right, I mean, and that's all I have. I'll stop there in case there's any outstanding questions. In case Victor or Jenny want to add anything else.
No, this has been great. Thank you, Eduardo, for walking us through this.
Yeah, great job, Eduardo. If there's any materials that as you're looking at this that you think will be helpful, or you have recommendations on how we can improve them, or just we haven't thought about yet, please use this, email us, contact us, because we've created, this model, we want it to be inclusive to everyone, and we welcome making this model, that much better and that much stronger. And I really think collectively we're going to be able to do that once we all learn from each other. So thank you very much for being part of this journey with us.
All right, thank you, Jenny. Thanks all. So we will be in touch with all the follow-ups, and then we'll be in touch with regards to the next gathering on this. And welcome. Don't hesitate to reach out to Victor, myself, or Jenny on any questions. We'll be in touch.
Great, thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks all. Have a good day.